So it's already 4 p.m., so let's start directly. I would like to welcome you to our Younium webinar on the topic An Introduction to Subscription Management for B2B SaaS Companies. I'm Linda and I'm a marketing coordinator here at Younium. And along with me, I have Wolter, who is our subject matter expert and main presenter for today's show. This is probably, I think, Wolter's 10th webinar at Younium, but it's my first one. I have always been working behind the scenes, but now it's my turn to speak a bit more. And this is also then the first time we are using this new webinar platform. So let's hope that everything is running well. So what's up for today? We have planned 50 minutes for the webinar and we are recording it. So my plan is to send you the recording as well as the presentations within a couple of days. And then, as mentioned, Wolter is our main presenter, and my colleague Hervoy will take care of the chat. So please send us all your questions and comments, and we will answer them during the Q&A part at the end of the webinar. I would also like to say thank you to all of you who sent in your real-life scenarios. We will go through one of the cases during the webinar. And yes, I guess that's more or less it from me. And maybe Hervoy, you want to say hi before I hand over to Wolter.
Thank you so much, Linda. Hello, everyone. Enjoy the webinar. Also, keep an eye on the chat box and keep an eye on your, is it the left or right screen? I think Linda knows this much better than I do. A couple of pop-ups will happen there for some materials for you to use after the webinar. Yeah, enjoy the webinar.
Cool. Thank you, Linda. Great. This is your first webinar, but you're already doing better than me with the 10. So very good. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Also, from my side, we're going to cover a few topics. First topic is really around, the basic versus advanced subscription management. For those that have been on our website once or twice, they see us talking about advanced a lot. So what does it actually mean, and what is the difference, and what kind of things are we seeing? We're talking a bit on how you can manage that for business to business. Then we also look at the market today, because the market is different than it was last year, and the year before it was different as well. So it's always good to have a bit of market talk and our subscription tips. We, of course, don't have real tips on like how to scale your development. That's not what we are here for, but some tips related to our subscription area that you could put to use pretty much tomorrow in order to hopefully help you grow a bit of revenue. Then, like Linda said, we received a few case studies from our audience today, which is really helpful. We, of course, only can pick one. So we picked one which was matching the advanced type, let's say, and we'll demo that actually in the product for you. So instead of talking about it, you'll also get to see the product today, which I hope is cool. And then last, we conclude kind of the story with, what is world-class subscription management, after which we talk about the Q&A. So you have some room for questions in the end. And I hope the rest of this will not take that much. So you have a good amount of time for some questions. So first is the basic versus advanced subscription management. I think you have seen this before. Maybe you are, a Spotify user or a Netflix user. You go to the website or the app. You choose, whatever payment or plan you want. You register your credit card information and where you live, pretty much, and you can get started right away, listening to your favorite music, song, or movie on Netflix, for instance. So that's what we call the simple subscription. And in this scenario, the customer does most of the work in that sense by just self-signing up and moving on. However, what we really see a lot is if you speak to B2B companies, not all customers want to pay via credit card. We have many customers that have, a monthly subscription plan of 5,000 euros, for instance. If you then invoice that annually in advance, that is 60,000 euros you want to withdraw on a credit card. Maybe that puts a bit too much pressure on the credit, so that's not a good idea. So not all customers want that. Also, I'm in sales. I can say this. We in sales can be creative people that negotiate a different contract every single time we speak with customers. So that happens a lot in B2B companies. Also, I don't know, we kind of at Younium try to review our price plan every now and then. But we that means we also have some history from 10 years ago, or you recognize this probably, that you have different pricing iteration as you move forward, and you need to support both the legacy price plan and the new price plan that is currently on your website. You might also have some partners that sell your service for you, so you need to arrange some kickbacks, or you need to invoice the partners and they handle the invoicing to your customers. There can be different scenarios there. And typically, not always, but many B2B SaaS companies have, they have 3 sort of plans. Within those plans, you have add-ons, you have some usage, you have things like that. So that's the reality for, I would say, 80% of the companies we speak to today. So if you want to know if you have an advanced subscription business, we usually use this matrix, I think it's called, in our sales dialogues as well, where we really ask, our customers, like, okay, do all your customers that you have, are they on the same price plan and terms, or do they all have unique plans? And then you move this slider to left or right to indicate where you are, pretty much. Do your subscriptions change? Meaning, does a customer change a user, or do they downgrade to a certain module, or do you have indexation uplifts or things like that? Or do they never change at all? That again is an indicator of simple versus advanced. The user is the buyer, which typically seen in B2C, and the buyer is often a company or a group of a company with head offices, subsidiaries, invoices needs to go to A, whereas the contract goes to B, those kind of things all the way on the right. And then last is, you sell a service that never change, or you have different pricing modules, variants, add-ons, things like that. That's usually, if you put those sliders then after a chat, then you come into like a certain area. And this yellow part is what we call, then you're running an advanced subscription business. So that's what is advanced B2B subscription management. In the good old days, it was much easier. You had a traditional sales order, right? And you posted, you sent an invoice for your license fee, your software license, for instance. You gave an order confirmation. You made sure the people had the software installed. You send an invoice, you got the payment, and then you archived the payment. And the only discussion there was like, okay, how long do we need to keep archive of this? Because, you never have to speak with them again, because it was a done deal. Yeah. Whereas in a recurring business, you want to keep that relationship. And for that, usually the classic solutions were just used a CRM to try and close the deal, and the ERP to ultimately invoice the deal and register the customer for the audit trail and the finance purposes. If you look at the subscription landscape, it's a bit of a more colorful and full picture, I would say. So you have to do with the new business, so all the new deals, but also once they're a customer, you have upsells, downsells, milestones. For those who do not know, is you sometimes have a customer that starts their contract on the 1st of March, but they start paying on the 1st of April because they are only going live in April, or they negotiated 1 or 3 months free of charge. That's what we call milestones. And of course, you manage the renewals. Within a contract, there's a lot of things happening. You could have some usage-based billing. Things can change. You have some cancellations of subscriptions. And all of that, of course, triggers recurring invoicing, recurring payment, and recurring revenue recognition. So you have to monitor also how you split out that revenue recognition. And in this world, the classical CRM and ERP mix doesn't do anymore. So you have a subscription management solution instead of that, which ideally, and we see that a lot as well, is also connected to your own SaaS application. So if you have, for instance, any usage, pay-as-you-go kind of pricing models, it's really cool to link your own product to Younium or any subscription management solution to make sure that that's also included in the automatic billing of things. For those interested, we have a blog, which I think Roy can share with you somewhere. It will pop up on your screen, I think, if you want to read more on, like, when is this single source of truth really necessary for me? And then you can also find out if it's the time for you, or maybe not yet, or maybe it's overdue. Could also be the case. Then if we take it even one step further, this is like the previous picture, but all around it, you start with an initial order. Then it could be so that there's some usage, some pay-as-you-go, some credits, an X number of API calls a customer can make that needs to be invoiced monthly in arrear, for instance, including the upfront agreed fees. Then you have an invoice. Then you have a payment, and then if it's not canceled, you go all the way around. Product pricing changes could happen, right? You have to launch a new price plan, you launch a new module which is monetized. The subscription changes because of that, and that needs to be managed, and then it comes to renewal again. And that keeps going round. That's why I guess they call it the circular economy, which makes sense. And of course, once it's canceled, if it gets canceled, you go to archive. And then it's stored. If you want to take that even further in B2B land, you get some refunds every now and then. Credit notes, they ordered an add-on, it's not to their liking, they want to cancel it. What are you going to do? Not allow them to cancel it and make your customer disappointed? Or are you going to credit it? You need to be able to prorate that. You want to do something about sales commissions and partner commissions. Also, sales commissions on the and partner commissions on recurring business can be completely different than what it used to be, right? You had maybe like an X% of a deal volume. What is the deal volume? If the customer sticks for 3 years, do you give every 3 years a sales commission? You know, those kind of things need to be managed, and process decisions need to be made with that. You, of course, have some service provisioning and self-service for your customers so they can see their own invoice when it's paid and the statuses, or, you know, make it easy for them to view their subscription. You have indexation and renewal uplift. So maybe, you know, you have a value-based pricing that increases when your customer increases in something. You have to manage your product life cycle, and you, of course, measure maybe their license. So, you know, are you actually using the 12 users you acquired, or maybe you're using 15 and we need to send you a prorated invoice for 3. Of course, the subscription changes should trigger renewal opportunities to make sure you work with them carefully. And then last but not least comes the reporting and the insiding of all of that. So all of this is happening. It's a lot that's happening, and you don't want to go into every single contract to see what has happened. So you need some sort of visibility, some sort of business mirror, which tells you, you know, how am I doing, to be used both internally for your management meetings and also externally for maybe, you know, founders or venture capitals or private equity owners, whatever. Really important to measure all of that. So it's not that easy to run a subscription business, unfortunately, but it's what we do. So talking a bit about the market, I'm not going to bum you all out for 10 minutes. I'm not planning to, at least. Just a few things here. We see the spend is going down. Many customers are likely pushing decisions. Competition gets a bit tougher. Funding costs more because of a decreasing valuation. Instead of competition, you might see, like, you know, we're not losing many deals to competitor X or Y. It's actually we're battling the status quo. So customers want to keep things as is until they make a decision. Instead of like they go for another person, you probably have the fullest deal pipe ever. The access to capital becomes a bit more harsh. Therefore, your burn rate is probably still on the same track as it was last year, but the access to new capital makes it hard. The efficiency of growth is not as fast anymore. You cannot just hire and see if you keep growing your team. You need to be careful a bit on that. And the Rule of 40 metric, not sure, for those who are not familiar, check our metrics guidebook on the internet. But Rule of 40, like, there are a lot of companies are currently making decisions, you know, should I invest in growth or should I invest in profitability and keep costs down a bit and, you know, make my EBITDA higher and my margin higher? And many initiatives coming from that. And to counter this, I mean, it's going to be tricky either way, but we have some practical tips, like I said earlier, related to our business. So not necessarily, you know, relevant to everyone, or every item is relevant to everyone, but I think most will recognize a few things. So things we can do to counter that are free. First is experiment with your pricing model. That is really crucial, because actually with your pricing model, you can make sure that there's things that they might find too expensive to pay for now. If you package it a bit different, whereas, you know, a module that would per default be included later becomes an add-on, it's easier to then maybe sign the deal if the base amount is lower. And what you actually see in these times is the upsell has never been so high for many companies. So that add-on, once they trust you, once they signed with you, and once they have used your product for a while, becomes easier to add anyway later on. So you will still have the same deal amount in the end, ideally. So experiment with your pricing models. What can you split to make the basic plans, you know, the premium plans, all of that? How can you make them more attractive? and try to work with, if you're going to do discounts to bring your customer over the edge, temporary discounts can really be good, because if you also measure ACV and CMR, again, a blog on our website, that really shows you also, like, if you give a temporary discount with a fixed end date, it doesn't impact your ACV or CMR, which is really good, because you still want that to be high. So it's a good tip. Run referral programs. I don't know why, but many SaaS companies forget that they have a loyal customer base. Maybe they have friends. So for instance, we sell to the SaaS community. So if a SaaS company knows another SaaS company, why should they not speak to each other about their happiness of Younium, right? So make sure you run sort of referral programs and loyalty and rewarding programs on your existing customer base to really boost the upsell opportunity and boost your net retention in your customer base. That's really, really useful. Also, when releasing roadmap items, really reflect, like, can I bundle some of these things into, an add-on and monetize it? And what would that be worth to some of our existing customers? Really see if you can do things like that. I'm sure there will be a few that will pop up in your mind if you read this. Also really easy to do. Make sure that before a customer signs any document or, make sure there's a clear pricing and contract ready for them. So you don't have to have unnecessary discussions later on, because it really doesn't help getting your customer a good start, right? So you want to make sure that whatever they sign up for is agreed and has the proper signature on it. Sounds so simple. One of the most common issues I see with many companies that do not do it properly yet. Also, a cool thing, make subscription data available for your customers. And ideally, not only the modules they have, because they know what they have, but what do they not have? So, they can see, oh, there's this add-on. That's not in my, oh, that does this. Oh, that's actually the one thing I'm looking for. That's cool things you could be doing. Pre-agree, small thing, but really important, and realize the contracted price increases. So speak to many companies that do not do indexation because it is too cumbersome. Not our customers, hopefully, but others that do. So make sure that when you send a first contract proposal, there's something about indexation. We do according to the CPI index, or we have an indexation of 5%, or your value-based pricing works like this. It always needs to be part of the original contract, so that when there's talks about the indexation, it doesn't avoid unnecessary discussion, delayed invoices, no cash on the bank, pretty much. And last thing, I guess, is the keep the books in order. Like, make sure you have your metrics, make sure you have your data auditable, so that you can still have access to funding when you need to. It is not that the money isn't there for venture capitals, because they still will invest in order to grow, because if they do not invest, they will not grow revenue themselves. So they still have, of course, they have money and they should spend money in SaaS businesses to grow, but they will be more strict in their process. So make sure you have the data clean and in order. This is a very cool example I put in here from HubSpot. I really, really like this. So this is us, unfortunately, going to pay more. But the way they write this is something I really get inspired by. Look at you grow. That's the subject. Like, oh, great, you grew, Younium. You've added more people in your team, or you have, new contacts that you can reach out to. Therefore, you have been upgraded to the next contact tier. So they really have this cool pricing model where, you have some plans, you have a fixed fee, some add-ons, and then you have user-based seats. The other has multiple price plans and have even tiered and volume-based pricing. And it's really about the value. So also with HubSpot, if you started out, you probably, most of the audience have at least seen some sort of quote from them. They have a very hard and heavy first-year discount, and it scales along with you as you grow. This is a really inspiring pricing model to look at as a SaaS business, I would say, to help you boost both upsell and close new deals now. So to make the entry level lower and make the upsell opportunity higher. Because if you have a sticky product, they'll stick with you anyway. So make sure you revisit that thinking. Then, Linda.
Yes, so in the webinar invitation, we invited you to share your real-life subscription management scenarios with us. We have reviewed all submissions and selected the most challenging case to address during this webinar. So now Wolter will actually demonstrate how the case can be solved within Younium. And so you get basically a sneak peek into our solution, and let's see how Younium can handle even the most complex scenarios. So back to you, Wolter.
Yeah, thank you. And again, also thank you from my end. I really appreciated an actual case to work with. So for those who have never seen it, this is Younium. This is the insights module of Younium, actually. And, whoa, I'm zooming in weirdly here. Give me 1 second, need to reset the screen here. Always handy when this happens live, don't you just love it? There we go. Now we're back. Now you should be able to see it as well again. So I'm going to try and create this exact case that we just have. So I did a bit of preparation cheating here. So you have an account, and what we have in Younium is also an optional invoice account. So you can sometimes have, you sign customer McDonald's in Amsterdam, but they have their head office in New York, so the invoice needs to go there, and the contract is with Amsterdam. This also is in reseller cases where you have that. Contract could start, on the middle of a month. So today, for example, you have a term subscription. It's going to be automatically renewed for 12 months, and after that, renewed with 12 months. And then I made a webinar product based on the case that we had. And the case that we had to go through it, so you can choose the base plan. So this demo product had like a basic, premium, and enterprise edition. Now we're selling the basic edition, and the basic edition comes with a flat fee per default of €1,000 a month. So that's a flat fee, and that flat fee is invoiced annually. So I can switch here to annual. So annually. And the recurring tiered fee is, depending on which tiers. So the first 5 users are included. So that's a free of charge 5 users. But after that, they're going to start charging the users per user type. So that's really cool. And that increases. And you can customize these tier per each customer that you sell this to. And you can give discounts if you want as well. So if you want to have 2 more tiers up to 2,500, for example, you can do that by adding tiers here. And they also have a monthly tickets fee. And the monthly tickets fee is not something they charge for in advance. It's actually something they charge for in arrears. So that's really cool. So they pay 0.1 cent, I think that is. So as soon as the actual usage of the monthly tickets come in, Younium gets that data via the API, and they invoice that monthly in arrears, whereas the other 2 fees are invoiced annually in advance. So here you only have to type in the quantity, and you activate the order. And from that point on, it's going to be a billable order, what we call it. And it will split, of course, the revenue accordingly, because this was a part of the case, is that it starts in the middle of the month. So then how do you deal with revenue recognition? It's always important. So it will split that out nice and monthly over time. So that is like this. So it will recognize, it was starting on the 16th, right? That's today. So it has like 12 days of revenue allocated to the revenue month of February, and it has the remaining on the 16 days of February in the month February 2024. So that is what we wanted to show you on the actual case. Thank you again for sending it in. Really, really nice. I'm going to try and move back to the presentation. I think that worked, Linda. Can you say yes or no?
Yes, it looks well.
Good. Good. So what is in it for you, dear audience, if you run a world-class subscription management system? Actually, it's quite cool, because you move from, in the good old days, finance was this department that worked with books or something. Nobody knew. But now you really see in SaaS businesses, you really see that they're, strategic roles in finance. They decide, like, they give business intelligence and do the upfront instead of like, this is what we did. This is what we should be doing. It's really, really cool. So that's in it for you. You really play a crucial role in the growth of your company. So it's also important. You can generate and help generate additional revenue streams by introducing and allowing new sales channels, because you're flexible, right? The backend is not holding you back. Like, should we sell online? Sure. Should we do some usage? Sure. Nothing is holding you back. You provide a crucial role to improve the customer net promoter score as well, because you're always invoicing right on time as agreed from the very first quote. Also not unimportant, because this is really a big frustration usually for many customers that get wrong invoices. Man, you don't want to check those things. And of course, it's a bit vague, but it's also very true. You better spot threats and opportunities ahead. So then last is the world-class customer experience. So I've looked at our attendee list before this webinar, and I saw many companies from different stages in their journey, from people that are thinking of starting a subscription business pretty much all the way to companies that have above 1,000 employees. And we at Younium believe, of course, it's crucial to manage subscriptions right from the start. It's a big surprise, right? Subscription management solutions wants to sell subscription management solutions. But we do not actually believe you need an automated solution right from the start. And there are different stages in your growth line, which is presented by the blue line here on screen. And we believe the higher up you go, the more requirements you'll have. So starting off, subscriptions are typically still generated ad hoc. You're figuring out the business model, maybe a product market fit. You have 20 customers and are bragging about it to everyone around you. And anything that you like this, you can still probably register in Excel. That should suffice. And you, of course, have some sort of accounting need that is supported by your accountant. That should be more than enough. Then once you grow and scale, you want to attract a good funding deal maybe without having to giving up 80% equity. It's important to also have some automation. Why is automation important? Not only because it helps you grow without hiring a fully staffed finance department, but also because the figures you have and the reports you're running are going to be reliable and are trusted in a funding run. And that can give you the best deal possible. You shouldn't, compromise on that, because anything will come up in a due diligence, and you don't want to, be happy and excited about a good funding deal and finding out throughout the due diligence process that it's going to be cut in half, for instance. When you've built your foundation as a scaling company and you want to move to the next levels, you will be looking more at revenue growth and optimization. So are we selling the best packages to each client? Do we want our customers to get insights in their invoices and contracts? And, when you really bring that world-class customer experience and make the subscription a live contract and proof of relationship with your customers, that's when you have pretty much done the max and you've reached the star of world-class customer experience. We believe actually the orange text works properly. So this part, that does fine in pre-seed and seed stage, or you reach, for instance, 1 million euros or USD or 10 million Swedish crowns, for instance, ARR. If you are at that stage, this you probably can live with. That's probably good enough. The black text here in the blue box, that should suffice typically around 3 million ARR or in euros or USD, or maybe 30 million SEK. Or up till that point, or a Series A round, and the yellow part will always be relevant when you keep on growing into your successful unicorn. So you don't have to start right away, like I said, but from here it's really good if you have something automated with some metrics, with some insights. So that's world-class billing, and from here you will always then have that foundation to keep on growing. And with this, I'm already at the last slide, which is the Q&A part, and a reminder that thanks for bearing with me so long, first of all, but we have a webinar coming up on the 7th of March, I think. Yes, it's on the picture as well, and we host a full panel of experts on transaction readiness, where this means how can I get my company ready for possible transaction to sell it, for instance. There's people coming from Fidelity, Ernst & Young, panelists that do this on a daily basis, that will give you some practical tips on, how can I do this properly. So I highly recommend you watch this. And there will also be many learnings about valuation and SaaS metrics with this as well. And then I hand back over to Linda for Q&A, I think.
Thank you. Yes, we actually already have some questions. But before deep diving into those, I would like to take 2 minutes just to introduce Younium. For those who never heard of us, we are an all-in-one subscription management and billing tool founded in 2017. We focused on advanced B2B SaaS companies that run a recurring revenue business model, and our goal then is to help them streamline their processes and gain control over their subscriptions. We have today offices in Stockholm, Netherlands, Poland, and the United States. If you would like to know more about Younium and how our solution can help your business, just feel free to reach out to me or Wolter or Herboje or anyone else at the company. So let's go over to the Q&A part. We have some excellent questions waiting to be answered here. Just let me decide which one we should start with. Okay, so we have a mix of simple and advanced subscriptions. We have customers on a 50 euro per month price plan and enterprise customers on around 2,000. Is that something supported by Younium?
Yes. Boring answer, but yes, it is indeed supported by Younium and many other tools as well. So the amount of money is not necessarily the crucial thing when selecting a subscription business tool. It's not necessarily your average revenue, but what we typically see is if you have customers on a higher revenue, it also means you have a negotiated deal because typically they don't sign up for a 5,000 euros a month price plan on a website. And when you have negotiated deals, you could have an advanced subscription business, and that's when it's good to speak to Younium, I would say.
Yes, thank you. Let's go over to the other one. We started our company 15 years ago and have at least as many pricing updates. How does Younium deal with the legacy pricing?
Yeah, that's very, very good question. We have many customers that started out 15 or more years ago that have, 60% of their revenue still on license and maintenance contracts, and the rest is recurring or subscription, I should say. So we both, of course, have support for the legacy pricing model and the new pricing model, but there's also a feature in Younium called order adjustments, which helps you to, migrate customers in a bit more bulk. If you have done like a nice little action advertisement within your base to move a certain group over to the subscription model, which is of course always good. There's ways to automate that as well.
Yes, then you talked about resellers. Do you offer support for when resellers invoices the end customer, or we invoice the end customer and need to register then kickback?
Yeah. I mean, invoice the end customer invoice the reseller is quite easy, with all due respect, because it's just a customer in that sense, right? But if you invoice the end customer and you need to register reseller kickback fee, yes, you can on the contract link or on the account of the reseller say this reseller gets 20% because he also does our support and our consulting and stuff like that. Then he gets that, and then you can at the end of the month, or how often you do that, run a report and generate the total revenue done minus the 20 or divided by the 21% is the kickback, or 20%, whatever the kickback is. So yes.
Perfect. Easy.
Yeah.
Does Younium have functionality around pricing changes and indexation?
Yes. Indexation is probably a recent question from somebody that just did that in January. But yes, there's the same function as I mentioned in question 1 or 2. There's an order adjust feature where you can run indexation either on renewal or on a certain specific date or any point in time, pretty much when the next invoice goes. And you can do that according to a CPI, or if you have specific agreements, yes, some customers I can index the full amount, but some I can only do maximum 2% and some I can do 10%. Those kind of annoying things are supported by Younium as well.
That's great as well, right?
Yes.
And I have one last question in the chat. How can you tell when a certain product or add-on is the reason for MRR growth?
Wow, that's cool. I mean, if it's a bit of a boring question, or boring answer, sorry, not a question, my bad. If you track CMR, it's easiest because you can also measure it on booking level, and you can check the CMR per certain product, and you can really, really match it. Otherwise, you of course have a roadmap, when it's launched, and then if you track MRR per product and product category, So what we in Younium do is we have products and product categories. And if you have, for instance, a category of called, my core price plans, which is, your basic, premium, and enterprise edition, that's, your core product offering, and then you have your add-ons. And typically, roadmap features are added to the add-on, not the core pricing plan. And if you have that as a separate product category, you can really track roadmap performance in Younium based on the roadmap releases you do. You can see the MRR growth. But coolest is to do that in combination actually with CMRR or ACV kind of things.
Great. I think I will have a look again if there is something more coming in. No. There is not. Okay, nice. Then I guess there is no more questions to answer, Wolter. So I guess I will say then thank you for your participation and great questions. If you have any other questions that popped up after the webinar, you can always reach out to us. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I had a lot of fun. It was my first one, but surely not the last one, I guess. Oh, no, wait. We see one here. I get a new one. Is Younium compatible with other currencies as well?
Yes, absolutely. Other currencies, other tax. It's not only yes. So it's the simple. You can have currencies are always in threefold. So you have your reporting currency, which is typically linked. So we have multiple legal entity structures in Younium. So if you, for instance, have an office in the Netherlands and in the US, you have typically a BV and an Inc. entity. And in the Inc., you will report your revenue on the dollar currency. And in the Netherlands entity, you will report your revenue on the euro entity currency. And of course, you have maybe the holding, which is on a different country altogether with a different currency, which would have the consolidated revenue of that in that base currency. So that's supported. And of course, you have your pricing currency. So you're selling in dollars, you're selling in Japanese yen, I think it's called, in rubles, in what all the currencies are. Yes, that's all supported, both on the reporting side, on the invoicing side, and on the pricing side.
Great. Let's see if it pops in something else. I was also sharing the meeting link with Wolter and with Jeremy. Jeremy is for our US prospect.
Yeah. One more question. Yes.
Oh, you see it as well, right? Can email reminders sent through Younium if there is no auto renewals?
Yes. So in Younium, you define per contract, per agreement, if this is a contract that is automatically renewed, yes or no. So I'm assuming this is the question. If it's automatically renewed and an invoice is generated for the new term, then yes, it sends an invoice for the new term. And if that's not paid, it automatically has invoice reminders. And you can set up different templates, the first reminder being super friendly and the fifth reminder being a picture of a baseball bat, for instance, whatever you want to do. And if the contract is on non-automatic renewal, then it doesn't generate a new invoice and it will not keep reminding a customer that they haven't paid their invoice. But you can set it up flexibly in Younium. I hope that answered the question.
Yes.
Two more.
Yeah. Thank you. He said so. I think you answered the question. Yes. Do Younium support revenue recognition?
Yes, we do. We have per each product, you can set up revenue recognition rules, and you can think as fancy and as simple as you want. So simple being, you take a setup fee revenue right away. For instance, you take subscription fee, you invoice annually 1,200 euros for a full year, but you want to allocate a spread 100 euros of revenue monthly over time. That's supported. And you also have the fancier mixes where you have, for instance, we invoice a setup fee now. We take 50% now as a front load, and we spread the other 50% as a back load monthly over time. You can make it as set up separate rules for each product, and you can even deviate from those on each contract if you would want to, but that's not used a lot. That's for really rare cases. But yes, absolutely. Happy to show you that if you want.
We also have a follow-up question on the currencies. Is Younium capable of reporting these multiple currencies on consolidated basis, multi-entity?
Yes, very good question. So in Younium, like I said, you have the multiple legal entity structure. whereas your holding entity, if I can call it that, the main core entity, I don't know if there's a proper name, that will have the consolidated revenue in the base currency of the holding entity, and all the others will have could have their own entity in their own currency. And the holding will consolidate it into the general one.
Great. Another one. Can you take out a report of AR per customer split on responsible salesperson?
Yes, you can actually. So you can link the sales representative to a contract in Younium. You can also drag them over if you have, for instance, CRM. You can synchronize that over, so you don't have to do anything about that. And then you can run a report in Younium that says, sales rep X sold this many deals for these many revenue. So that's absolutely included.
Great.
Same for partner commissions, pretty much same functionality.
Then we see if something more pops in here. It's super nice that you are so active. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Wolter? Was that the last question?
Yeah, I think like we said, the meeting link of Jeremy, my US friend and colleague, is now on screen. So if you want to book some time in the US time zone, you can be found there. But you can also reach us on LinkedIn or email or anything. So let us know if something pops up that you do not want to share in the group or whatever. Always good. You know where to find us.
Yeah. And what else to say? I will send the recording and the presentation within 2 days. So keep an eye on your inbox. And with that said, have an amazing morning, evening, whatever time zone you are in. And thank you very much.
And base currency.
Yeah. Yes. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.